For example 20, we're going to look at using decimals with addition or subtraction in a real world situation. What I'm going to again do here, just like I did in the previous example and examples with word problems, when we're dealing with a mixed number, I'm going to change this to a 30 and a 52 to see if I can get an idea, and we'll make this a 46. So I'm going to try and focus on it without any of the decimals or without any of the mixed parts added in. And that'll help me, it helps me get a better idea of what to actually do in the problem. Then I'm going to apply that method with the decimals added back in. This also gives us an estimate of what our answer should be. So what we know is that a diver went down 30 feet below sea level, or below the surface of the ocean. An integer that represents 30 feet below the surface is a negative 30. And then went 46 feet farther down. So there's two ways I could show that. I could subtract 46 feet, or I could add a negative 46 feet. And then he rose 52 feet. Rising 52 feet will be represented by adding a positive 52. So now that I have my expression written out, I'm going to take the two negatives and add them together first. 30 and 40 is 70, plus that 6 gives me a negative 76, plus 52. Because we are left with addition with a positive and a negative, the signs are different, so we have to subtract that. So if I took 76 minus 52, that leaves us with 24. The 24 will be negative because 76 had the greater absolute value. So because we end up with a negative here, the negative would represent a depth below the surface. So we could say that the diver's new depth is 24 feet below the surface. So we have our estimate of 24 feet below the surface. I'm going to keep that up there as our estimate. And that means that our answer should be somewhere around there. So now we already have the formula of what to do. We had our first integer was negative. That was a negative 30 and 65 hundredths. And then we added the next negative because the diver went farther down. The diver went down 46.5 feet. And then we add the 52 and 45 hundredths feet. So again, now we just take the two negatives and add those. I'll set this up vertically. On the side, we'll work that out. That's 30.65. And now the 46 and 5/10, I'm just going to make that hundredths, so our decimals are lined up and we went out to the same place values. So this is going to be a 46 and 50 hundredths will make it. Again, decimals are lined up. 5 and 0 is 5. 6 and 5 is 11. You carry your 1. Bring down your decimals. 6 and 1 is 7. 4 and 3 is 7. So when we added the first two depths, that gave us a negative 77 and 15 hundredths, plus the rise of 52 and 45 hundredths. The signs are different, so we would have to subtract here. If we are subtracting this, we have 77 and 15 hundredths is the bigger absolute value, so we'll put that on top. Minus 52 and 45 hundredths. 5 minus 5 is 0. We can't take 4 from 1, so we have to borrow from the 7. That becomes a 6. This becomes 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. 6 minus 2 is 4. 7 minus 5 is 2. And again, The negative had the greater absolute value, so our answer here is a negative 24 and 70 hundredths. But because that zero is at the end there, we really don't need that zero, so I'm just going to put it as 7/10. And to answer this, we could say that the diver's new depth is 24 and 7/10 feet below sea level. And you'll also notice that that's pretty close to our original estimate of negative 24.